once people implement that in their business, there's no way that they can't grow, because it's actually putting a professional marketing system in your business. They're just paying for SEO and praying to the Google gods that it's actually doing something for their business. If you've never sent an email to your past prospects or customers, you can do that tomorrow, and you can start getting leads coming in the door. All of our consultants, if they lose a client, that's directly correlated to their pay. They get, young people right out of college that barely know anything about business, and they say, you're nice, you can talk to people, and they plug them in, but there's no accountability, anything. And so yes, our goal is to be an asset, but also we want to produce results. This is a big one. Is you can be the number one salesperson in your company, but you shouldn't be the only salesperson in your company. Most people are getting 3-4 estimates on different things. The more you can stand out in that lead to sale process, the better. And there's those key points like leads, estimates, sale, that you can nurture and build unique propositions inside of that.
Welcome everybody to the next episode of the Construction MF'ers podcast. My name is Scott Peper. I am the CEO and founder of Mobilization Funding, and today we're going to be talking about marketing your business. What to do, how to do it, and I got the perfect guest here for me. We're going to talk about marketing construction businesses. And this will work for all businesses too, even the manufacturers out there and others. These principles that you're going to learn today from my guest are going to be tried and true. We're going to talk about real examples. We're going to give you real feedback, and we're going to give you executionable things that you can put right away into your business or challenge your own marketing team to do. Without further ado, Phil Risher from Phlash Consulting. Welcome to the show.
Thanks, Scott. Happy to be here. Good to connect again. You were a guest on my show, and we had a great conversation, so I'm excited for this conversation as well.
Me too, man. Me too. So I want to get right into it, and I want to talk about why Phlash, but why Phlash, and why did you start the company, and how did you become so passionate about the construction itself?
Yeah, so coming out of college, I actually worked at Enterprise Rent-A-Car through their management trainee program. And there I was running a local service business, about $3 million, getting paid off the bottom line. And I read a book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And he said, hey, one of the number one skills you can know is how to sell. So I went into corporate enterprise and I sold fleet management services to large home service construction companies that have large fleets of vehicles that need vehicles. And I was calling on CEOs, 10, 20, $100 million businesses, setting up meetings with them. At the same time, I had started my own personal blog about personal finance. So I built a WordPress website. I did SEO, ads, email marketing, social media content, and I got my website up to about 30, 40,000 people per month coming to my website. And I was featured in Forbes, CNBC, Yahoo Finance, all these cool places. And I would go to these meetings and ask them, what are you doing for marketing? And a lot of times they didn't really have a game plan. And I ended up quitting my job at Enterprise and buying a little school bus, and I made a little tiny home, traveled around the country, made content, all this stuff. When I came back into town, one of my clients from Fleet Management was a $3 million service business. They did residential and commercial work. And when I went to work there, I helped him take his business from 3 to 4 million in the first year and ultimately scale it and sell to private equity. And we took that blueprint, and now we help other contractors grow their business through that. So I kind of got into it, just based off of all my skills. But what I realized is that most contractors, they're doing marketing of some sorts, but they don't know if it's working, and they don't really know what to do or have a game plan. And that's where I figured out, okay, if we lock in, there's really 3 main parts. We can solve this and help companies grow.
It's funny because you mentioned that cookie cutter method that you were frustrated with, right?
Yes, exactly.
What is the cookie cutter method, and why doesn't it work?
Yeah, so this hit me square in the face when I started. I was director of business development at a $3 million business trying to grow. And I would get on a call. I'm sure you've experienced this too. You get on this call with these marketing companies, and they're like, yeah, we're doing SEO, we're doing Google ads, and our cost per click's over here, and our cost per conversion's this. And then you say, well, who are these customers, and what's my return on ad spend, and what's my data? And they're like, well, you got to do that. It's in your CRM. You got to figure that out. And it's just very I pay for Facebook ads, and they do the Facebook ads, but they don't really care about the numbers that go after that. Like, are the leads good? Did you listen to the lead quality calls? Did you go through all the way and check my return on ad spend or my potential return on ad spend? And there's a lot of missing pieces that they throw back on the businesses to figure out. And the problem is that there's not this like middle ground to like figure it out, and it ends up being on the business owner or some like young admin
Yeah.
CSR who's gonna like be able to figure it out. That's the cookie cutter approach that I faced, and a lot of business owners face that as well.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more.
Yeah.
So you got into it through the construction side and become passionate that way. What other types of industries have you worked with in in your business as well?
Yeah, so we work with traditionally contractors. So the company that I was working at was a duct cleaning company. They did residential and commercial duct cleaning, but then HVAC, plumbing, electrical, roofing, siding, gutter cleaning, but yeah, pretty much a bunch of the normal like trades type of services. We've worked with them and helped them in different capacities. Really, what it comes down to is that cookie cutter side of things. We distill down the customer journey into three main parts for a good marketing plan. And those three parts, once people implement that in their business, there's no way that they can't grow because it's actually putting a professional marketing system in your business.
I love that. And you call that the Flash customer journey, right?
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, this
Yeah.
Flash customer journey, and it has three parts. So the first one is visibility. Most of the times when people reach out to marketing companies, they want new customers to come in the door.
Mhm.
And there's ways, strategies we can talk about for that. Then the second part is conversions, which is you start getting leads, but you need to manage these leads into estimates into sales through some type of a lead management process. And then the last piece is retargeting, which basically as we go through these steps, less and less people do this. But retargeting is when you take all your prospects and customers and stay top of mind, cross-sell services, stay in front of them, and then bring them back into your funnel. And that's the full funnel effect of new customers come in through your funnel, they might convert or leak out, and then they get retargeted and come back in the other side.
So what is it that most customers, when you go into a new business of yours, what is it that most companies, look, a lot of your average subcontractor, they're wearing multiple hats, right? If they have a
Yeah.
marketing arm, maybe they read a book, maybe they didn't, maybe they're just marketing to whatever extent they knew. Maybe they have someone from their family, or they hire a director of marketing or a vice president of marketing. But if they're not doing things right, what do you find are the things that they're typically making the mistake on, or the pieces that they're missing, such that they're doing a lot and they look at it as this big investment that they're making, but yet they don't know if they're getting the right return or they're not getting any return. Where are they going wrong?
Yeah, great question. And I'll give you one from each of those pillars. So for new
Okay.
customers and visibility, they're doing SEO and it's all black magic and voodoo because they don't know, like they don't track their keywords. They don't know if it's actually increasing their rankings or what. They're just paying for SEO and praying to the Google gods that it's actually doing something for their business. So if you're in that situation, you should be asking the SEO company, how are you going to track your performance? And how are we going to know this is actually working? The second one with that is Google Ads. If again, you're spending money on ads, you should have return on ad spend tracking. And that's a big piece of what we see. Those two things is usually non-existent. And so then when you're slow, you don't know, should I spend more or not? What's working, what's not, and you're stuck. In the conversion funnel, the biggest one is lead follow-up. Someone reaches out to your business, it, whether it's B2C, residential, commercial, it's the same exact thing. Someone reaches out to your business, someone works the lead, they call them, they don't answer. What happens? Who's following up with that lead? Who's making sure that maybe they're not a calling person, maybe they like texting, maybe they like email. There needs to be a process. And then in the other bucket with retargeting, it's that everyone thinks, oh, they'll call us when they need us. They'll reach out to us when they
Hmm.
have no idea what you do. They came in for one service and you do 10 other things, but they don't know because you can't get lifetime value without a lifetime relationship. And you're not even educating them on all the other things. That's all the issues that most people have.
How do you sort through that though, then, and plug in like, okay, here's where your issues are in those three segments or sections. And here's the plan. Like, what is your team? What does it look like? Someone hires you. What does your team do? And how do you go about doing it such that they can see this value right away and also recognize where their issues are?
Yeah, for sure. So this is the the common thing that you hear from marketing company. Hey Scott, it's gonna take 3 to 6 months, man. Yeah, we'll just give us 3 to 6 months and we'll see how it works. Everyone hears this from all these marketing companies. The thing is if you've never sent an email to your past prospects or customers, you can do that tomorrow and you can start getting leads coming in the door. So we recommend sending out a monthly newsletter at least with content, and we could talk through what that looks like, but it's like get that going. So usually people are not doing that or they don't have a content calendar of what they should be talking about or the right structure. The second thing is when we onboard someone, we ask them, what's your sales process? And we try to dig into the questions that I ask you, which is when a lead comes in, what happens? When you call this person, they don't answer, what happens? When you send an estimate and they don't respond, what happens? Like we're trying to dig in to figure out where the missing pieces are. And then also with the SEO and the Google ads, we just set that up initially so that we do the right stuff. Like we track the keywords, we track the return on ad spend reporting. But usually it's those questions that we're trying to uncover to figure out where we need to plug in.
Yeah, that's interesting. So like, one of the things I think business owners that I talk to a lot, especially in the construction space, they get frustrated with marketing. Like, I spend all this money on it, but I have no way to know if it's actually turning into any type of real revenue for me. And what metrics should I use? How should I track to it? And it sounds like part of your program is doing exactly that for them. Like, let me show you how what I'm about to do is going to generate revenue. But more importantly, when it does, I want you to know how I'm going to get credit for what we did and executed.
Exactly. And here's the missing piece that every single business owner wants this, and every digital marketing company should do this. It's that you have digital marketing, home service, CRM, and everyone is going back to the CRM and asking, like the digital marketing company saying, okay, business owner, you got to tell me, are the leads good? What's my stuff? The business owner saying, I can't figure this out in my CRM. I don't know how to track this.
Hmm.
So what my company does is we bridge the gap. We get in the CRM, we pull the reports, we build everything so that it's all talking together. And then we go to the business and say, hey, here's the information, here's the data that we have. Sometimes the customer service representatives or the business is putting the data in wrong. And so it's like, okay, we got to fix this. Sometimes we're generating a bunch of leads and we listen to the calls and it's like, you guys can't even close a door, let alone an actual job. So you need to work on your sales process. So there's a lot of transparency here in actually wanting to grow the business, not just like do a cookie cutter
Yeah.
service.
All right. So that's interesting. So you're actually, I mean, if you think about a chief marketing officer, a CMO, you're getting pretty ingrained in there. I mean, when you're diving into like the CRM and the value of information in the CRM, which by the way, side note, the CRM's only as good as the information you put in it, the structure you set it up to be, and how you use the information that comes out of it.
That's
Period.
right.
That's standard for any business, any size business, doesn't matter. And by the way, all businesses have that problem. So that's a concept that no construction owner should ever feel bad about. That's a problem that some of the biggest Fortune 500 businesses have.
That's right.
And like figuring that out is key. So back to my normal point here. If you're a small construction business or a medium or large size construction business doing many millions of dollars a year, and you don't have this system figured out, and Phil, you can come in and execute this. Like, what are the secrets to making sure, like you said, your
Yeah.
marketing, their process, customers, and the CRM in the middle? How do you make
Yeah.
sure that that works? Because that in itself aside from marketing, that in itself can produce revenue results.
Exactly. So let's just take Google Ads, for example. Most people are going to spend Google Ads $2,000, $3,000 plus, and they're not really going to know if it works. So here's what they should be doing. They should take their Google Ads and create a separate landing page on their website for these Google Ads to go to. On that landing page, you want to have a separate form and a separate phone number. On that landing page, when someone goes there, you know that if someone fills out that form or calls that phone number, they had to have come from a Google ad. Then you put that data into a spreadsheet every single month. Then you go to your CRM, you type in the phone number or the name, and you see what happened. This is a manual process to do it. We have it automated, but that's the basic manual process to track your actual returns. And
Okay.
then what you should be doing is good. You mentioned it, good data in, good data out. Good data makes good decisions, and that's a big piece of it. But even if you don't have good data, let's just say you use QuickBooks, for example, and you don't even have a CRM, take all the emails, put them into a tool like MailChimp or something else, and just send them an email talking about whatever you should be talking about based off of the time of the year. So what we recommend is have a content calendar, January, February, March, April, May, June, July, whatever you should be talking about in your business for each month. Do talk about that in your monthly newsletter, your blog posts, your social media posts, and then now you have your content. And I'll give you one other pro tip on this. Let's say you do social media content. You take your content calendar, you create some social media posts, maybe a blog post. Then whatever your greatest hits are, like your best social posts that get the most engagement, you put all the greatest hits in an email and then you just send it out. You don't have to do it's already there curated. You just curate and send it to your people.
I love it. I love it. It's so good. And you mentioned like being an asset, not an expense. And I think what you just articulated like lays that out in a perfect fashion.
Yeah, I felt that way when I was working at this business was that like okay, we're spending, $3, $4,000 for this marketing company, but like there's no way that we can correlate any growth to this side of things. And I could have called the company Flash Digital when I started the company, but I wanted Flash Consulting. And there's a big component to this that holistically in business is my philosophy is that my whole company operates on performance pay. So all of our consultants, if they lose a client, that's directly correlated to their pay. So their job is to make sure that they're producing results for their clients so that way they're making money. So they have uncapped potential, but then they also feel the pain when we lose clients. And I think a
Mhm.
lot of times in the marketing space, specifically with their account managers, they get, young people right out of college that barely know anything about business and they say, "You're nice, you can talk to people," and they plug them in, but there's no like accountability, anything. And so, yes, our goal is to be an asset, but also we want to produce results.
I love it. So when you're talking to new businesses, or not new businesses, but when you're talking to businesses that are new to you, they're trying to consider like, what do I do? How should I go about this?
Yep.
What are some early red flags that tell you, you know what, this is where they're doing something wrong and this is what it is.
Yeah,
So
we
it's such
have.
that if someone was listening to this, they would know like, man, I need to make a phone call because these things are just, I'm doing all that.
Yeah, okay. So from a digital marketing perspective, if you're working with a digital marketing company and have no Google reviews, like that's just a red flag because we all know Google reviews are important regardless if you're commercial or residential and you're working with a digital marketing company that has no reviews, clearly they're not doing the things that that you should be doing. But inside of your business, this is what we look for when we're partnering with companies. One, you have to have a CRM because you have to have data of some sort. Two, you can't be the person that's answering the phone on everything. Commercial, residential, you need to have a customer service representative, some admin person, something there. Because when you turn on the faucet of leads and you want to grow, you have to have the infrastructure in place. And then the third one, this is a big one, is you can be the number one salesperson in your company, but you shouldn't be the only salesperson in your company. And a lot of times people hit like, 3, 4 million and they get stuck. And they get stuck because they're the main salesperson and they never follow up with their estimates. They don't work every single lead because they can't get to them all. They just pick and choose which ones they want. And then they say, "Oh, I just want more leads to come into my business." But they don't have a good process or a system to actually scale by hiring more salespeople. So those are some of the things that we look for that are like red flags that like you got to fix this if you really want to grow.
I love it. What do you think? Do you have a good story or two that you could talk like some success stories? Like you walked in this business, it was in the construction, a combination of residential and
Yep.
commercial.
Yep.
Because I do think there's some nuance between residential and commercial. I think if I'm a residential plumbing contractor right now, I'd be sprinting to call you, right? Or
Yeah.
electrician or HVAC. I mean, no doubt. But what about the commercial plumber who maybe has a small portion of service business, but most of his business is, bigger commercial projects, bigger being defined as, large GC doing something that's non-home related.
Yeah, I would say from a commercial perspective, the same visibility, conversions, retargeting, it still applies.
Mhm.
However, with the commercial side of things, there's a whole layer to relationship selling, right? Like rarely is someone going to search online and then you're going to get some $1,000 million contract or something just because someone found you online. Very rarely does that ever happen, obviously. But there is a component in the visibility side, which we didn't talk too much about, which is the B2B partnerships. And B2B partnerships is I do HVAC, you do electrical, you do plumbing. How can we work together to pass referrals back and forth, whether that's on large commercial jobs or small residential jobs? And I think a lot of people, they pray to the Google gods and they'll pay Google, $200,000 per lead, whatever it is, when they could just be partnering with other verticals and pay them the lead dollars only when they get the leads. And a
Right.
lot of times people miss that. And here's a pro tip. I mean, you're out on a job site, you meet a guy, he's like, "Yeah, I got this big project. I'll let you know the next one that I get and I'll pull you in." And you never hear from him again, right?
Yep.
So what you need
Even
to
though you
do
had a
is,
great conversation too.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, like, "Oh, this guy loves me. Yeah, he's gonna pull me in on his next $1 million job." What you need to do is take his business card, put him into your email newsletter, B2B email newsletter. And now you need to stay top of mind and relevant with this person every single month and show them the work that you've done and then say, "Hey, on your next project, be sure to bring me in. You can go here and, fill out this form, whatever." But again, you can't get that lifetime value without a lifetime relationship. And so many times it's just a handshake, one time meet, and then you never get any leads. So you have
Yeah.
to make sure you have this process.
Phil, you know what? I'm thinking of an analogy that I used a lot as you're describing this in the commercial space, and it's staying top of mind. If you're a realtor in a market, you don't go door to door trying to convince people to sell their home, right?
Exactly.
So that you can sell it. You try to stay top of mind and educate the world so that when they decide to sell their home, you're
Yeah,
top of mind, so they will at least call you and give you a crack. There'd be nothing worse than living on a street and you're a realtor and someone else brings in their sign
exactly.
and hangs it, right? Because they have a relationship somewhere else. Like you're clearly should be qualified. And so I think that's a great analogy is what you're talking about. You want to stay top of mind so that someone's, when they do think, oh, yeah, that's right. I remember Phil. We were on that job site. He stayed in front of
Right.
me. Yeah, you know what? I need to refer him that plumbing deal. I'm the electrician. He's a plumber. Oh, perfect. We can do this together. And
That's
that's
right.
exactly the analogy I think I was thinking of as someone, as you were describing that.
That's right. And there's so what we used to do when I was at this $3 million business, this is more of like a sales tactic for a lot of these people. Because sometimes people, they're subs, they don't know like, well, who are these GCs? Who should I be reaching out to? There's a really good tool called Construct Connect. And basically you can go on there and you can see all the big projects in your area that are going on that are currently getting bids. Then you can actually reach out to them or just find who the superintendent is or whatever on the project and go on LinkedIn and connect with these people and say, hey, I saw you had this cool project over here. Would love to stop by and take a look at it and start to build relationships with people. But a lot of times people don't know, like, how do I find out about these jobs? Just word of mouth, whatever. This is a really good way to go in there. What we used to do at the duct cleaning company, we sold a product called AeroSeal, which would seal the ductwork inside of commercial properties or new builds, construction. So what we would do is find where the big developments are that are happening. And
Mhm.
then we would reach out and say, hey, if you don't pass your inspection for the code of leakage on your ductwork, reach out to us and we can knock out these aeroseals like $200, $300. And we used to crush it with that. And these are like bigger ticket things. So I think there's a layer to like, obviously being hungry and getting out there, but there's cool ways that you can do it from a digital perspective too.
But I think what's important for people to recognize in the example you just gave is you were educating them on a problem that they either have
Yeah,
now that they
exactly.
recognize, or you are educating them on a problem they do have, but they don't have a solution for.
Yep,
And you were then providing that education, which is valuable in itself. And then you
exactly.
were also providing a solution, which was valuable in it, which is also valuable. And
Exactly.
that right there is the essence of marketing.
That's right.
And you couple that with everything else you talked about, a good system, a good product, staying top of mind, paying for that information to get in front of the right people. And now you have systems and processes to capitalize on the people that are calling you. Now you have an ecosystem that's complete.
That's right.
But I think the key is starting with one, a great product or service, two, recognizing what problem you solve, figuring out who has that problem and highlighting it for them, but more importantly, highlighting your solution, and then have a nice system and organizational process for taking care of that customer.
That's right.
Some people call sales, but the reality
Yeah,
is it's really taking care of that customer
that's right. And
because you're in the problem solving business and people that want to solve problems want to, they need their problem solved.
exactly. And I'll give you another layer to this, which is it correlates perfectly. So the problems that your customers are going to be facing. So let's say you did a HVAC commercial project at a school, and all the schools pretty much have this one problem. What you should do is create a page on your website that's SEO optimized specifically for this problem for these schools in this area. And then you tell the story about how you solve this problem and you talk about the problem, because now when someone has this random problem and they go to Google and asks for it in their area, you have a page all about this exact problem. But and important is that you have the industry line up. So it's like schools, churches, office buildings, commercial properties, new builds, whatever all that stuff is, you have it perfect, ready to go for them on a silver platter, exactly what you're saying.
Yeah. And by the way, have a unique page for that. So you know that leads that come through that are coming for that specific problem. So you know if you spend more time on that than you would on like dialing for dollars or a different problem.
Exactly. And it lives on forever. You can create it one time and it's going to be indexed for the remainder of lifetime. And most companies are not going this granular on what they're creating.
So for a company who's really skeptical about marketing and they're listening to this and they've heard us for now the last 25 minutes and they're like, yeah, great guys. It sounds awesome.
Yeah.
But you know what? I've been burned a million times. And although you two can talk really well and it sounds
Yeah.
cool and Phil's got it figured out and he was in the business too and all the other great things that seem to make this make sense, what would make them, or what would you want them to know right now, and why, what one, two things with why that you would be different, your process and system would be different, and keep them from getting burned like they have on all the others?
Yeah, I was literally just on a call earlier today, and this is the same thing. It's like everyone's burned, and I get it. I got burned. I went through three digital marketing companies when I was at the home service business because it's just like frustrating, and you get burned, and you're like, but and you learn the next thing. I would say the first thing is every single company should have a marketing budget in place for regardless of whatever business that you do. So in the trade specifically, we usually see 3 to 10% of your revenue is marketing. So, $1 million, you're spending 30 to $100,000. First off, that will give you permission to spend money on things. So that way you don't feel like you're just wasting money. It's like, no, this is my marketing budget. I'm going to deploy it the best that I think that I can. I'm going to do this and do that and do this. So that's the first thing is like most companies, they don't have a marketing budget. I would recommend having that in place. As far as working with my company in particular, because we're so ingrained in the data, we rarely get people that push back on performance because it's a team, like we're a team and we're looking at all the same data. It's not
Mhm.
like a traditional, the home service business or the service business looking at it like this, and then the actual digital marketing company is looking at it like this. We're looking at the same thing. So it either makes sense or it doesn't. And then we have to figure out why it doesn't make sense. And it's either like the data coming, you see what I'm saying, right? It's not like
Yeah, totally.
there's a friction piece that's missing for most of these companies that we solve.
I love it. I love it.
Yeah.
Phil, what else have what haven't I asked you that I should have?
I would say inside of that conversion funnel piece, the leads nurture sequence, there's a lot
Hmm.
of opportunity that most people miss, and that's in commercial and residential. My recommendation, so when someone goes to your website and fills out a form or interacts with your business in some capacity of filling out a form, reaching out to a salesperson, whatever that looks like, there needs to be an initial lead management process. I recommend sending them a text message, an email, and a video from the owner or salesperson that says, "Hey, this is Phil, owner. Thanks so much for reaching out to us. Can't wait to work with you on your project. If you ever have any issues, please reach out to me." It's going to help you stand out immediately. The second thing is when you give someone an estimate, commercial, residential, you want an automated thing like 10 minutes that says, "Hey, just sent you an estimate. Want to make sure you got it." A text, email, and then also a video. "Hey, we'd be happy to hop on a call and explain things. Here's three things that usually people ask about these estimates that I just like to get out in front of are common questions." So building inside of this conversion funnel, because most people are getting like three, four estimates on different things. The more you can stand out in that lead to sale process, the better.
Mhm.
And there's those key points like leads, estimates, sale that you can nurture and build unique propositions inside of that.
Yeah, I love that. That's really smart, man.
Yeah.
Kudos to you. If you can, I mean, when you're executing on all these things for these businesses, and if they're able to absorb them, this is
Exactly.
the crux to being able to really see a ton of success. Now, let me ask you one thing you haven't talked about today. Do you help them make sure their product is great or their service is great?
Yeah.
Because all
So
this works well until you don't have a good product or service.
exactly. And we run into this a lot because like you can't market a bad service. Like if you have, 100 one-star reviews, it's like all the marketing in the world is not going to fix that.
Yeah, well, you're just churning
Yeah,
you're just churning customers that are never going to use you again.
exactly. So for us, we're usually like trying to work with companies that are doing all the right stuff and then plug us in and it's like rocket fuel, kind of thing. So, yeah, there's a component to like most of the times when it doesn't work out, it's like a bad operator that's all over the place. They're a top salesperson, they're answering the phones, running all over. But as far as us fixing their product or service, we can coach them like, hey, here's your customer journey, record this video, we're going to plug it into your system. But as we can't tell them, fix your phone script and they don't fix it. It's like you got to fix your phone script.
Have you ever worked on like specific products or services with the company too to help them as like part of their marketing?
Yeah, so like memberships is a big one where it's like, hey, we want to offer a membership. How should we do that? How should we promote it? What should we do? What do you think people are going to like? How should we come to market with this? That's a big one. Same thing like an HVAC contractor that's going to bring on plumbing. How do we introduce this to the market? I would recommend starting with like hot water heater flushes when you're introing stuff, but how are we going to layer this in? So we had a contractor, they were 3 million. They went to 6 million, 8 million, and then sold to private equity. And what they did was they bought an HVAC contractor, plugged in electrician, And then we cross-sold generators, commercial jobs, and residential all in one, EV chargers for commercial projects, and then slowly started to flip it from there. But um, I think that's the most constructive way that we work with these companies to help them with their products or services is layering in different things to
I
sell.
love it.
Yeah.
All right, last question for you.
Yeah.
If you had to define word of mouth marketing in today's era, how do you see it? Is it the same as it used to be in the past? Is it different now? What's your thought on that?
Yeah, I would say at the end of the day, people, they're not going to remember the price. They're not going to remember the invoice that you sent them. They're going to remember how you made them feel. And the number one thing that you can do is have them remember your name. This is something that enterprise taught me is like, if they talk about you at the dinner table, then you know that you did something. So give them that story to tell at the dinner table. If they remember your name and they remember how you made them feel, that is word of mouth marketing and reputation. And I
Hmm.
think a lot of times it's way easier now because AI and automation is diluting this. Like the things that I told you about setting up these automations and nurture sequences. What if after a job, after you went out on an estimate, you opened up your phone, recorded a video, and sent and texted to the person? That's a way to stand out. And I think that there's a
Yeah,
lot of opportunities like that that are easy, low-hanging fruit to
it's
cut through
easy.
the AI automation for a lot of people.
Right. And then if you're in a home-based business, this is a no-brainer to me. I see it all the time because we all have a neighborhood email list or a neighborhood text or a
Mhm.
chat. And the moms and dads are in there talking good and bad about both. If you had a great experience with a service trade business in your residential community and they talk about it positively, that is like easy
Exactly.
pickings because no one's talking about a positive experience with them or very few. And so that's just a no-brainer and an easy way to stand out. In the
Yeah,
commercial side, I think that also works. You got a project manager that's talking to the estimating group. It's about how great you are, talking to the
exactly.
superintendents. You have employees out there talking about how great they were. They learned something new about how they took on the job from you. Those are just easy lifts, and that ultimately makes its way to the executive teams of those companies, and they're just going to give you more opportunity to
Exactly.
bid and more wins. And then, but you got to deliver your product, whatever it is you do, product or service. It has to be rock solid. It has to
Yep.
be good.
Yep. I
I
agree
love
with all that. And I think there's differences between residential, commercial, but at the end of the day, you're still dealing with people and relationships. And that's really what it comes down to is how can I make this experience great for these people and serve them with a great product or service and customer journey?
I love it. Phil, before I let you go, anything else you want to add?
Really have a marketing budget in place. If you are paying for marketing, ask those questions. How are you going to track your performance? What's my return on ad spend? Think about this life cycle of customer journey, regardless if you're commercial, residential, it all is the same. And really try to dial this in because marketing does work. You just have to find the right company that helps you.
I love it. Well, Phil, thank you for joining us, man. Thank you for sharing your knowledge. I think it's been beyond good, right? Beyond good.
Thanks.
And there's folks here now listening. You got actionable steps that you can take. Worst case scenario, you have a way to audit the current marketing you're doing, the current marketing company you're doing. And if you do nothing else, please at least do that. Take these to go back and listen to this. Take these steps that Phil's laid out. Audit your own business, manage your own service, look at your own marketing team or department. If you're using another agency, ask them these questions, help guide them. You don't have to fire them even, but
Yeah.
just have them guide them to where you can find the best benefit and help. And Phil, where can people find you? What's the best way to connect with you? And if they do and are interested in looking at your business, what's the best way for them to go about doing it?
Yeah, so Scott, we do these free marketing audits where we get on a call, audit all of their stuff. We believe give the recipe and sell the cooking. So we literally give them the playbook like, hey, you should do this, you should do that. So they can go to Flash Consulting. It's PHLASH consulting.com. Click discuss your business. If you just want to like get more information or learn about what we do, we have a great YouTube channel, Flash Consulting. And if you just say, hey, I'm a cool dude, I hang out on LinkedIn, Phil Risher, you can check me out there.
I love it. Guys, I hope you found value in this. If you did, please share with some folks. Let people know. You can find both Phil and I on LinkedIn. We each have our own YouTube channel and on our website, mobilizationfunding.com. Phil, thank you very much, man. I appreciate you coming on.
Yeah, thanks, Scott.
All right. Until next time, everybody, have a great week and may God bless you.